Welcome back, baseball fans. It is baseball week, and today we're going to be reading our first text, Casey at the Bat, which is an example or kind of falls into our baseball theme week. For some of you, I'm sure you're pumped. For others of you, you'd rather the batter be out of there. Get it? Even while I'm gone, I can make hideous jokes. Sorry, friends. Anyway, we're going to be talking and reading Casey at the Bat today. Casey at the Bat is a poem, and it's very similar to that of, Annabel Lee in the fact that sometimes poems can tell stories. And this is one of those poems that is going to tell a story. So we know that good readers, in order to understand stories, are going to use active reading strategies. And the first thing I always do when I read a poem or any text is I try to understand what that poem says. So as we listen to the poem in Study Sync, I'm going to ask you to follow along on page 1 in your book, Search for Truth, Moment of Truth. And actually this week kind of bridges that idea between chasing the impossible and Moment of Truth. And so before we get into our last unit and our last theme, we're going to kind of bridge that idea between the two topics of our units. So as always, follow along with your eyes. Once we're done, as you can see in the Google form that maybe you're following along with, or the Google Doc, I haven't decided which one I'm going to use quite yet, you're going to go ahead and talk about what you summarized or what was the gist of the poem. So follow along with your eyes, thinking about who was involved, what did they do, and why was that significant, or how did they do it?
The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2, with but one inning more to play. And then, when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a pall-like silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to the hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought, if only Casey could but get a whack at that. We'd put up even money now, with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake, and the former was a hoodoo, while the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball, and when the dust had lifted and men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second, and Flynn a hugging third. Then from 5,000 throats and more there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled in the dell. It pounded on the mountain and recoiled upon the flat. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing, and a smile lit Casey's face. And when responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance flashed in Casey's eye, a sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman the ball unheeded sped. "That ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. From the benches, black with people, there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone on the stand. And it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult. He bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the dun sphere flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike two!" "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands, and echo answered, "Fraud!" but one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain. And they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball. And now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out.
So, as you finish that poem, go ahead and turn and talk to your neighbor and decide what was that about, and think about who was involved, and maybe you have more than one who. What did they do, and why was that significant, or how did they do it? After that, go ahead and record independently your own idea of the summary on the form below, and we will go on to our next task after you get that done, and perhaps the sub will have you share out. But individually, I do want you to talk, and then also you can talk about things that surprise you, and then share out what you know. Anyway, we'll see you back momentarily.